how has AI and custom software transformed workforce development in the AEC industry, and what challenges have you encountered during its integration?
I think we're at the beginning of a total transformation. I've been thinking about this where I think we're at the beginning of what, iOS and Android developer ecosystems did for, creating millions of apps and putting it into millions of people's hands with, Meta's Llama and X's Grok and OpenAI's GPT. I think we're literally about to see this massive transformation across all industries.
Welcome to this episode of the AEC Engineering and Technology Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping engineering professionals find technology that fits their needs. The AEC industry is at a critical juncture where workforce development is becoming increasingly important to stay competitive and adapt to technological advancements. Integrating AI and custom software is poised to revolutionize how we approach workforce development, empowering organizations to build a more skilled, efficient, and future-ready workforce. In today's episode, I'm joined by two leaders at the forefront of this transformation: Jamison Morse, Principal and Director of Buildings+Structures at PVE-LLC, and Alan Mabry, co-founder of Turbine Workforce. Together, they'll speak about how AI is redefining collaboration, automation, and scalability in AEC, the challenges of integration, and the trends shaping the future of the industry. I'm your host, Nick Heim, and this is the AEC Engineering and Technology Podcast. With that, let's jump into today's episode. It's now time for our conversation of the week with Jamison Morse and Alan Mabry. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So another great conversation we've got for you today, so we're just going to get right into it. So Jamison and Alan, can you both start by telling us a little bit about yourselves and what you two do on a daily basis?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first. I am the Director of Buildings+Structures here at PVE Engineering in New York City. So do a lot of work with design, but a lot of investigation and forensic work. And I lead a lot of our technology initiatives here on how we can better integrate technology into a lot of our workflows and processes.
I'm Alan Mabry, one of the co-founders of Turbine Workforce, and we help organizations like PVE retain talent and knowledge within their organizations on a day-to-day basis. Like most co-founders, I wear a lot of hats, but engineering work, a lot of paperwork, unfortunately, and also the best days are working with, our customers, employees, and kind of brainstorming and collaborating, understanding how to make their, day-to-day work lives easier with our tools.
Absolutely. And well said to you both, gentlemen. And I really love these tandem interviews because you get two different perspectives generally on the same topic. So today we'll go back and forth, and we'll give each of you a question and give you a chance to talk a little bit more about what you do. So Alan, we'll start with you, and I'm really interested by this one. How has AI and custom software transformed workforce development in the AEC industry, and what challenges have you encountered during its integration?
Start with the biggest question ever. I think we're at the beginning of a total transformation. I've been thinking about this where I think we're at the beginning of what, iOS and Android developer ecosystems did for, creating millions of apps and putting it into millions of people's hands, with, Meta's Llama and X's Grok and OpenAI's GPT. I think we're literally about to see this massive transformation across all industries where just like all those apps were created to date, we're about to see a whole new set of apps that are powered by, large language models and machine learning that are just going to boost productivity to new levels I don't think we can fully know right now. I think when you think about workforce development, I would say that upskilling is, a major tenet of that, and that helps in retaining existing talent, equipping them with new skills. And one way AI is helping transform that is we're able to generate content on sometimes very niche topics that we don't have all the expertise around, but we're able to leverage through research and then generate, AI content and courses and learning modules to upskill the existing employees on these very, niche topics. Also with peer-to-peer learning, we're able to, what was once like brown bag lunch sessions, we're able to provide a framework so that an expert in one area can help another colleague learn about that. And we have a whole slew of tools that we've built in the apprenticeship world. So helping an organization bring on an apprentice, where we're using AI to capture what competencies they're learning on the job in real time based on just what they stead into their phone. So I think the transformations are still coming, but there's a lot of really interesting developments happening right now.
And Alan, for those in the audience who don't know, could you just give a high level summary of what workforce development is?
It's the processes of an organization. It has a very large definition, but as I would say in the context of this conversation, an AE firm like PVE invests in workforce development in a number of ways. One, by equipping their workforce with learning materials and the tools by which to continually improve their skill set. And there's a couple other sort of more, there's a lot of other topics it covers, especially when you're talking about in the government sphere. But I think for this context, I think around upskilling and keeping workforces competitive, I would say is the most concise answer.
Which makes a ton of sense to me because, as you stated, right, AI is changing pretty much everything we do as part of the AEC business, which, leads me into my next question, Jamison. So, before we started, we talked a little bit about AI. I think everyone knows that it's here and it's changing what we do. But how exactly is AI integrated into your work at PVE? And how do you ensure it's useful to all of your teams? Because I know you guys are multidisciplinary and not just a single vertical.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And we have architects and engineers, and I will tell you, working with a bunch of them, I happen to have both, but I'm much more on the engineering side, and we think very differently. So, part of that workforce development is understanding kind of how people approach problems, and then building tools that are, cross-disciplinary, but kind of make sense to how people are approaching and attacking a problem. So, Alan, I think you said it very, very well and concisely of keeping your workforce competitive. And part of that is being able to shift kind of based on needs and demands people from one area to another using your tools so that they can be effective at whatever task they need to be working towards to kind of help where the demand is flowing in at that time. So one of the big things that we've done is we build a lot of these automation tools and a lot of these, applications that you can go out and do these inspections or some of the forensic reports. And as we all know in this industry, it really ebbs and flows. And some of our designers, like say architects, it might be a little bit more based on the economy where, development slows, maybe the interest rates are somewhere where development just kind of pauses. So what we need to do is build these apps and these workflows that kind of make sense but are easily digestible by anyone so that they can very quickly get up to speed and be helpful and kind of shift at where the demand is coming in so that we don't need to be hiring over here while maybe we're laying off over here. So it's been really helpful to build these tools and really working with Alan and the whole Turbine team to have something that's accessible, easily digestible, but kind of understanding kind of from a wide breadth how everyone kind of approaches and digests these problems so that our workflows work for kind of every team member to very quickly get up to speed without necessarily burdening the different team members that at the time are the busiest. And one of the things that I really want to kind of impress here is everyone's talking about, AI and all the different things that it can come and, it's going to come for our jobs and stuff. I don't subscribe to that at all. The establishment of strong workflows and processes will always come from us as design professionals. What AI does is it helps make those smoother but it cannot replace or create them themselves. So what we have to do is find, the ways that we can, transition people, and we can upskill and we can train. And by putting the information in their hands in a quick and easily digestible manner that, kind of works with how they think and how they problem solve. And that comes from establishing those strong workflows and processes and building some of those kind of like the checklists into the applications to put people on rails, so that whatever that tool is in their hand, they're able to perform that task with kind of minimal friction and, really be able to be helpful at the task where the demand is at that current time or place.
And Jamison, just to summarize, it sounds like you guys have at least a vertical or two that sees pretty consistent demand, not independent of the economy, because I don't think anything's, isolated, but maybe more so than some of your other verticals. And instead of, hey, we need to hire 5 people to meet this demand, you're pulling from a different vertical and then working with teams like Alan's to get everybody up to speed to actually get the work done as it, like you said, ebbs and flows.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, like you said, nothing is completely independent of the economy, but, we do a lot of responses to, emergency jobs or say a weather event. And that's, you can get very busy very quickly out of nowhere, and being able to have, tools and kind of like we do everything through the turbine, our turbine product that everybody's logged into. So it's very quick to understand what that needs to be accessed and how to kind of get up to speed and help in transition, which has made it extremely, extremely helpful on our end so that we can respond to the various demands as they come in.
And it provides transparency when you're doing a search, who has what skill, as Jamison said, being able to distribute one skill set from a different team to another. We make it very easy to find who has what skill and what teams they're on, and you can identify how busy they are versus where the need is.
And now that's essentially was going to be my next question for you. Any more examples of how like these AI-driven platforms have streamlined employee workflows and training based on your experiences?
Yeah, I would say from what I've seen, organizations are implementing and experimenting with as a whole, I feel like there's still a lot of untapped potential. I would say that the bulk of what I've seen are primarily like chatbots and writing tools, but I think Turbine's in a really unique position, like Jamison alluded to earlier with the strong workflows and how AI is only as good as the workflows that it's embedded into. We're well positioned because we've been at this 7 years, and we not only have the ability to equip employees with tools to generate generate content using AI, but we also have the whole framework to distribute it and to activate it. And what I mean by that specifically is I'm very excited about is what we call an on-queue page, right? So think the knowledge you need on queue, right? So picture a QR code on a tool, on a machine, on a station, in the field or in the office, and an employee scans it. It pulls up, they log in or enter the access code, and it has the exact step-by-step information on how to work that thing, or the task list required, or a video on how to operate it. So it's this bridge or conduit from the information you have in Turbine and bring it into the real world exactly where you need it, when you need it, and not distracting. Where is it? What course was it in? I'm searching for it. No, it's just scan it and it's right there. That's one really cool example we're really excited about right now. We also have, obviously we're using it to help reduce the amount of time it takes to author content. So if an employee has an idea and they're in the office or in the field and it just comes to them, they don't need to go into Turbine to add that. They can do it from their phone. They can write it or talk to their phone. And generally, if it's something that could if it was a really cool learning or maybe even a mistake that could benefit the team so no one else does that, or so that process can be repeated, that note is then entered into Turbine automatically from their phone, and then they or someone else, when they have the time later, can use AI to compile similar notes into course content that become the training for the rest of the team to benefit from. I think the last really interesting thing we're able to do with AI right now is identify knowledge gaps. So let's say, and forgive me if I mess up any terminology, Jamison, you're obviously way better at it than I am, but let's say you need the specific building codes for facade restoration in Brooklyn. And the employees in Turbine, they search for it and nothing comes back, right? The AI can notify that this is a knowledge gap and that, resources need to be added to the system so that future searches or similar searches return relevant results. And so we're really excited about this identifying knowledge gaps, authoring course content, and these IQ pages.
That's a great summary, and there's two things that stick out to me there. So one is, it's what I like to call read it when you need it. It's that critical information at the time of deployment. So if I'm going to go use a GPR to go find some rebar and a slab, right? I haven't used it in a little bit. Being able to scan a QR code to just get a step-by-step instructions or a video sounds awesome. And the second is this, it's kind of like a lessons learned 101, where at the moment of I should or shouldn't have done this, or I had this great idea, similar, it's right at that moment I can record it, I can store it away, instead of having it locked in my head. I think are two very powerful techniques for knowledge transfer, essentially.
Yep, that's what we're all about, knowledge transfer.
And speaking of knowledge transfer, Jamison, I got a good one for you. So,
what?
Keeping on the trend of AI, what trends do you foresee in the integration of AI and automation within building design and structural engineering?
Yeah, sure. And that's a great question. And some of the things that Alan just talked about are really what we're excited about. The on cue, like you said, read it when you need it. Just putting information in your hand at the exact moment you need it. And Alan, the tools that we've been able to build, it's not just having like a step-by-step, but even has like little AI chat bots that are specifically trained on only that data. So, you scan, you say rebar fine, or like a moisture meter, we go out, haven't used this in a while. It brings up instructions, but you can literally just talk and ask questions and it gives you those answers right away, but based on that model, that specific thing. So it's not just pulling it from somewhere. And I do think it's really important kind of identifying the knowledge gaps, because that's been big for us too, is if someone's searching for something, it's not going to hallucinate and just give you some answer. It's going to say, hey, we don't have this, but it's going to alert. People are searching for this. This is obviously a need. So let's make sure that we get the right information into that into our organization. So that when people are searching, they're getting the right answer, not just something that AI is making up. And that's been really, really critical, because that's what I see with these trends. More and more people want to use technology. They understand the value in it. And, a lot of the barrier to entry sometimes of trying something new. I mean, everyone in the AEC industry, or really any industry, you try to get someone to do something different from what they've always been doing. It's like pulling teeth. It's impossible. I've been doing this for 40 years, okay. But as soon as you do this, where you make it like sometimes a literal button that says, hey, press this, and the easy, lazy way becomes the actual right, more correct way, that's when you really start to chalk up those wins. And that's what we've been really doing here, because we're building in Rails to all of our processes, but the barrier to entry is actually being crossed, because even people that have been in the industry for 40 years doing it one certain way, they realize, wow, that was an immediate value add to me. That saved me a ton of time, and it's accurate. So, you talk about like building design and structural stuff, like obviously the forensic and compliance work is a no-brainer, because there's so many pretty stringent requirements. It's basically a checklist, right? So, kind of building that into the tools of, hey, make sure you complete all of these things and it checks all of these boxes before you leave a site. And we have tools that help make sure those things are satisfied. The equipment training, that's a huge one we talked about, putting that information in your hand when you need it so that, you're not searching, you're not Googling, whatever. It's this specific piece or this specific process. This is how we do it. And it's almost like having a little companion. Hey, how do we do this thing? And what does this mode mean? Gives you the answer right there. But I think one of the big nice things too of having kind of a knowledge repository here and being able to, take those voice notes or whatever, record a lunch and learn here, there, or anything, it starts to really speed up the process of gaining experience that's accessible to everyone across the firm. A lot of times you're out in the field or you're doing a design or you're in Revit and you run into all these things. You get better at a process because you've done it for the last 5 years, 10 years, and you've kind of hit all these hurdles. As soon as you can kind of say, hey, here's a hurdle that I hit and here's how I solved it, and it goes somewhere that everyone can access and makes it very easy to find because now it's part of something you can literally just talk to it. Everyone's getting used to talking to a chat bot. Now it's trained, but specifically only on that data. So while you're doing, hey, I'm doing this thing, well, everyone's experience is now there at your fingertips to talk back to you. So instead of having 5 to 10 years of making those mistakes, you're still going to make mistakes and maybe you cut it down to 1, because you're benefiting from everyone else's experience and it's easily accessible without someone looking over your shoulder saying, hey, don't do that.
And that's a great way, I think, to just describe the professional services model and then kind of how we're brought up in it as essentially an apprenticeship. So instead of waiting, let's say, hey, a week for my senior engineer to get back and review something, you got that feedback that's instantaneous, but more importantly, it's correct. And you're able to shortcut the reps that we ultimately say is 20 years of experience, right? So then the follow-up question, is like, is the new 20 years of experience 15, just because maybe we're able to cut out some of the fat that just comes just as a natural process.
One thing, Jamison, that I just wanted to mention here is that I'm always impressed by the solutions that your team comes up with using Turbine. So Nick, we build all kinds of tools. We get tons of feedback from PVE and all of our customers, but I'll hop on a call with Sean Bailey, who is their Director of Engineering at PVE, and he'll just casually show me something they built leveraging Turbine that we didn't intend for that. I think they built a pitch kit, and they've reduced the time it takes to make a pitch to a client. And he showed me it. I was like, wow, I guess we need to productize that. That's pretty amazing. So I just
engineers, man, we can't stop.
It's just, we try to provide tools that can grow organically and foster that innovation, right? And we don't know all the answers, right? We just do our best to equip with the tools, and then based on what's being built, then we take ideas and try to distribute them to all. So
great. Alan, you must be reading my mind, because it's a great segue into my next question. So of all these solutions that are either, right, you guys develop them, you get an idea from a customer, whatever the case may be, how do you ensure they're scalable and adaptable to meet the diverse needs of the teams you come across, right? I'm sure PV is not your only customer within the entire AEC sector.
That's a good question. We're really lucky, to have customers and partners like PVE, which are not only, using the product, but are eager and willing to share, their wins, their struggles, dare I say sometimes bugs, but they will, basically it's kind of an open book relationship where it's like, hey, this is great. What if it could do this? What if it could do that? Right. And we really try to, we obviously have a roadmap, what we're trying to achieve. But when that feedback comes in from either just impromptu meetings or scheduled meetings, or we have tools within the platform to request new features, those really rise to the top of our priorities, because as much as we, plan and think we know what should be built next, the users who are using it day to day, they're really the ones that should be championing, the roadmap and the North Star of where we're going. But it really comes down to understanding the core problem or challenge or want or desire, and then talking to as many people in our network, and even if they're not our customers, reaching out to friends or in other companies, seeing if they're struggling. Hey, would this be useful to you? And not revealing too much, but then, okay, at the core, what does this thing need to do, and how can we name it or name parts of it so that it works not only for architects and engineers, but in the construction world, and we're across a couple other industries as well. So yeah, it's really understanding the problem set, coming up with abstracted solutions, and then really just iterating and trial and error, and finding out what's working, what's not, and using data to kind of guide us. And then on the infrastructure technology side, we leverage a lot of cloud technology to allow us to grow on demand. So as usage increases, we automatically ratchet up resources and are able to adapt.
Now, the one thing that you said there that's really stuck out to me was, instead of what I think some software companies will do, it's almost like a solution in search of a problem. But it sounds like you guys go to your customers direct to the source, and you're flipping that, right? It's, what are your problems and how can we solve them, and then working that then to scale across, let's say, a larger customer set that are probably facing the same types of problems.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I'd add on to that a lot of the problems we're facing, while it's specific to AEC, a lot of them are easily translatable to pretty much any professional organization, which Alan's done a really great job, taking feedback, and like you said, we always surprise him sometimes with ways we're using the tool, but that's a large kudos to them, because they're providing tools that are flexible. We can we're not trying to jam a tool to say, okay, this is the only thing this does, let's try to wrap our process around this tool. It's adapting the tool to fit our process. And when you have something that has a lot of power, that's easy to use and adapt to you, it's really helpful and easy to scale it, because it's not rigid. It's not, this is the only thing I can use this for, God, I wish it could do that. It's, hey, it can do all of these things. It's kind of up to you as the user on how you want to use it. We're just going to kind of show you all the features. So that's where I know Alan builds tools with one thing in mind, and we come back and say, here's how we're using it. He's like, huh? But that's
I meant to do that. Yeah, I meant that was the intention.
And I think that's the beauty of technology, guys, because no matter what your like floor of your use case was, it's like, hey, if it does at least this much, it's worth it. You're always going to get more out of it. But it's really getting into the hands of the users and just letting people go to work. And I think like I've always been surprised at like what our users can do, and just like stuff we hadn't even intended. So it really works out well, because I think you're getting more value out of whatever product or tool you're using in that manner.
For sure.
And so Jamison, last solo question here for today. So someone that's at the forefront of AI and automation in AEC, specifically structural engineering, right? So like, what have you learned that you can share with other professionals to help them apply in their day-to-day work?
As a lesson, I'd say it kind of boils down to the more you can put the specific knowledge in the place where someone needs it at the specific time they need it, the more you win. It's really kind of changing people's mindset to realize that information is available, and it can be very intuitively accessed, and I've seen that shift happen. And putting, like we talked about, the on cue stuff, or the read it when you need it, the more you do that, and you kind of cut down those barriers between the person with the question and the answer, but not only an answer, the right answer, you win. And I really think that's kind of the baseline, and what all these tools really boil down to is just allowing that ease and that workflow to be kind of right there when people need it.
And I think that alone, I think for many organizations is probably the lowest hanging piece of fruit you could find out there. It's just search. It's just, we know all this stuff. It's locked in the heads of our most experienced practitioners, but I can't wait for an answer and I need it now. And if you can get that done in an organized manner, so like I said, instantaneous, but more importantly, correct. It's powerful.
Yeah, Turbine's been huge for us to kind of address that need, and we're seeing dividends.
We made a design decision in the technology early on when it came to implementing AI, which at the time my partner raised an eyebrow with my partner, but essentially when AI doesn't have the answer, it tends to make it up, right? What we did was we bifurcated the processes of finding relevant information that could answer a question and then using it to generate a human response with the AI. So in the process of finding the right sources throughout your whole knowledge base in Turbine, if it comes up empty, it never hits the AI. So it can literally not respond or hallucinate. It can't respond in an inaccurate way. So that design decision, it has proved out to be pretty great. But again, so I think that's one unique sort of paradigm of Turbine there.
And the old adage of, it's better to say, I don't know than make something up, right? I think maybe AI has something to learn from us after all. So gents, this has been a pleasure. I've definitely learned a lot about, the applications of AI, but I think in a more streamlined and organized fashion that the audience is going to get a lot out of. But to both of you guys, what final piece of advice can you give to engineers and tech professionals that are navigating this intersection of AEC, AI, technology, and just this storm that's coming at us?
I think I guess it depends on the size of your organization, right? Some organizations are massive. They have internal software resources, right? And I guess I would caution about tasking them with building full solutions in-house. I've seen a lot of blown out budgets, blown out timelines where very capable people thinking things would take a short amount of time turn into 9 months, 12 months, when there are lots of tools that are currently cost effective and can help you today. And then lastly, I think you got to find a technology partner, not just a vendor, for integrating all the various systems that are coming down the pipeline, right? So I guess that would be my sort of main advice there, because basically there's no one size fits all, like Jamison has talked about, where it's really hard to fit your bespoke processes of your company that makes you unique and makes your business successful. That's why you're successful. That's why there's not a one size fits all in technology. So I think finding someone who can work with you to leverage things that exist, but also build when they don't exist is super important.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, and very, very thankful and blessed to have that partner in Alan, because it's, I think the advice that I can give is, don't go out there thinking that AI is going to solve all your problems. I think you need to have your own workflows and your own processes, and that you apply AI to make those things smoother and more efficient. So, yeah, I would partner with someone. Find your own Alan out there, maybe even Alan himself. If there's taking on other people, but it's look for tools that are flexible, that you can use to leverage to better your existing processes, but don't expect them to come up with those processes or replace that yourself. And one of the big functionalities I do like is that finding the knowledge gaps. The best resource we still have at any firm is always going to be our people. We have smart, talented individuals, and all of these tools they don't replace them. They just get knowledge out of them and put them in places so that we can share peer-to-peer and we can develop each other from each other. And getting insights on what is important to people and what they're searching for and what we need to put in there, and then going and finding that information to put into the model and kind of constantly being able to shift with that has been really, really helpful, because again, it's not replacing the knowledge. It's not creating the knowledge. All it's doing is telling us what knowledge do we need, and that information is coming from our people, just in a faster and more efficient manner. So just like putting oil in the machine.
Really well said, gents. And thank you guys again so much for taking the time to join us today. So if the audience has questions for you guys, wants more information on any of the topics that were discussed, what is the best way to reach you?
Turbineworkforce.com /AEC. So we have a dedicated page talking about how we're helping the AEC industry. So turbineworkforce.com /AEC.
Yep. And for me, you can find me on LinkedIn, poke me with a message. Our website, PVE-LLC.com. I'm on the little about page. You can ding me. But really, I think personal messages, I don't know if my email is out there, but if you just find me on LinkedIn and poke me, I'll get back to you.
Wonderful. And Jamison and Alan, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Until next time.
Please remember, you can find the show notes for this episode at aectechpodcast.com. There, you will find a summary of key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all of your engineering and technology endeavors. Thank you.